So we've got the two little washers for the hinges that I said not to lose. And for right now, we're just going to peel off the window lock strip off this frame that we had, because we're not going to be using that just yet. So we've just got our bare frame, put the washers onto those hinges, and these latches are just loosely installed. It's just the nuts are finger tight. So I'm going to come in here and just get that set on the hinges and slide it all the way forward. Now the thing to take into account is that those hinges, if you remember, we just bolted them to the frame, so they're not adjusted. See, this one's actually kind of kinked at a funny angle. It's also scooted over. That washer's loose, that washer's tight. So there's some adjustment there to get your frame set, and then there'll be adjustment here to get these latches set where they need to go. But for right now, we'll focus on doing the frame. So if you look at it, it's not going to close all the way because the latches are not adjusted properly. Just get them kind of set about where they need to go. I need a wrench. I'll need to scoop this up a little so the pad clears. Just kind of got it latched. It's not adjusted. It's not in the right spot. Actually, that one didn't even need anything. And all that's going to do is help hold that frame into the opening so that we can look at the gap and we can kind of determine. You see how it's slid forward a little bit. It needs to come back a touch. We can obviously tell that those latches need to be straightened out because they're kinked. So come back in with our gear wrench. We take the tension out of the two nuts that are holding the hinge through. They're not completely loose. They're just loose enough for me to be able to kind of pop the frame to where it needs to be. It's just kind of an eyeballing thing, so I don't have to work too hard there. This frame, you'll notice it doesn't actually fit the opening quite as nice as the frame on the inside did. And that's because this frame is shaped like the factory glass is shaped. And the factory glass was done before computers, and they didn't have kind of, an outline to do it, so it's actually done off a different pattern. It was really important to have the frame match the glass, though, so that the glass is securely held and protected. So you're going to be fighting kind of some visual discrepancies where the gaps are wider in certain spots. It's just a matter of getting it evened out. Once you have that evened out, you can use the wooden handle of a hammer or a rubber mallet and just kind of get those hinges pushed into place. That one's not being cooperative. Maybe it needs to be a little looser. There we go, we got it now. And by doing that with the frame in place, it keeps the pins in parallel and where they're supposed to set. That one keeps wanting to drift back, so I'm going to hold it wrench while I snug it into place. And just tighten each one of those nuts a little at a time, because otherwise what will happen is it'll just crush that one side of the frame, and then the nut on the other side will come loose and the hinge will be able to pivot and wander around. So we just got the hinges clamped into place with the nuts on the inside. They're holding the frame. Stood back and took a break for a minute and made sure the gap looked nice. Once we get that set, it's time to get these adjusted. See, they're still just loose. They go up, down. There was in and out for over time. And then, in addition to the up, down, this latch mechanism in here can go up, down in its slotted holes. So to start with, what we'll do is we'll simply get it locked together. And if you notice, I just pushed that together. You see how this is down a touch? What you want to end up doing is you want to get it so that it's a little too tight. So I just loosened those nuts a little bit. You want to get it so that the profile of this latch and the profile of where the tab is kind of match up. I hate to admit it, but it's not a 100% precise fit. It's going to be just kind of visually close. But you see I've scooted it up. Well, I just opened it. Leaving it latched kind of helps you keep things in place. So I've scooted it up right about there so that this top edge is more or less flush with that. And you can see it's crooked because it's not bolted into place. So I'm kind of just going to hold it height-wise. And we will go ahead and snug those nuts in. And I'm not tightening it all the way because as I snug it down it'll kind of square it up. So I'll get that rubber mallet again, and you can see it's out a little bit here, so I'll tap that in, bring the top out a bit. I can't really get underneath it, but give it a little hit up. Yeah, that actually looks really nice. Once you get it to that point, go ahead and snug it down. So, the frame is matched to the frame that holds the latch now. It's locked in place, it's nice and snug. This latch itself has not been adjusted properly yet. If you can see, there's this tab here with the stainless pin that engages onto the roller. And that stainless pin should hit right in the middle. I need a pointer. Right in the middle of that pawl. The other thing you can look at is this width, this little 1/2 inch wide thing, should be sitting squarely in the middle of this gap.
Can you identify the 1/2 inch thing because your hand was in the way of the video?
Oh, just the tab.
Okay.
This tab here, this little tab should, as it comes down into the latch, should center in this opening here. You can see there's a slot there that it's actually going to recess into as it goes down through. And that latch actually looks pretty darn good. We're going to go ahead and push it, and it should snap like that. Alright, now right at this point, the microphone ended up getting covered. So for the next 1.5 minutes, I'm going to need to overdub it. What I'm explaining here is how the little clip can actually flip and get stuck, causing the latch to not close on you and create some frustration. So you need to make sure that the clip is pivoting loosely. That obviously won't happen once a cable is installed, but there's no cable at this point in the process. So when it's loose, it'll latch and open nicely for you. Now I'm actually going to loosen up these 2 bolts here and explain kind of a 4th degree of adjustment for in-out on the latch. We've kind of got it set so that it's where we wanted it up and down, but if you notice as I rock it there, the latch point is kind of on a 3rd linear axis from where those bolts are, so they actually allow it to pivot in the holes, and you can get about 3/16 of an inch of extra adjustment. Now, since the gaskets are brand new in this situation, we can kind of pivot the latch in its housing so that it moves that catch point to the outermost area. If you find that the gasket gets looser over time, it's very simple with nothing other than an Allen wrench to put it back in place. So I've centered up the latch, latched it, and if you notice how when the gasket pushes it out, see how much further it comes out away from the frame there? I can just let the gasket pull the latch all the way to its extremity, make sure it's centered up and down, and snug those 2 bolts into place. And we then have a clean engagement on the pin to the rotor. So we'll move on to the other side here in just a second. The microphone got back uncovered, so you'll be able to hear the normal recording.